What a powerful energy you have created in the room. And Pulkit, what a power presentation. I don't see him anymore here. But he should conduct a session for us as HR because we don't know how to market our work, right? Agree, disagree? Yeah, so we will request him to do a master class for us. And he clarified that our job is not easiest and we are not here only to do administrative work. So what exactly we are doing? Be it anything here, whether we are fostering a growth culture or we are creating a career development plan or being inclusive, collaborative culture or recognizing or driving change or creating a culture, we are all creating possibilities. As Pulkit also drove a point that it is all about unleashing potential. So in this segment, I am going to talk about how of it. How are we going to do it as HR professionals? So let's start with a very simple question. What is 1 and 1? Any answers? Very quickly. 11. Yes. Bollywood बहुत देखते हैं आप. Anything else? 1 plus 1? 2. So 1 plus 1 is 2, we all know. What more? It can be 1, 0. Any techies here? Yes. And it can be 1 plus 1, 1 also. How it can be 1 plus 1, 1? If we take a chewing gum and we take another chewing gum and we mix them up, we are not going to get 2. We are going to get 1. Likewise, a laundry bag, another laundry bag, we will get a bigger laundry bag, right? So 1 plus 1 can be 1. And that is what we need to remember. 1 plus 1 is 2, but 1 plus 1 can be 1, 0, can be 2, can be 1 and 1, 11, or it can be 1. So there are endless possibilities in our life. What we do is, we look at is, we do not look at can be, and that's where we are limited. Okay, another question. This is Washington Monument, very old, like Pulkit took us to yesteryears. This is also something similar. What do you think this monument would be made up of? It's a monument of a country, Washington Monument, right? So world's most powerful country even at that point of time. But what would you think it is made up of? It's a shiny material. Any guesses? Marble, okay. What else? White shiny material, we don't know. Sorry? Silver, yeah. Somebody was saying something. Sandstone. So we all think of something valuable, right? Marble, sandstone or silver. But this is made up of aluminum, which we don't even use in our kitchens today. And why we don't? Because there have been research that this is not a good material for us. But they have created a monument for it, out of it. Why it was done? Because the process of galvanization was not available. So extracting aluminum was very, very expensive. This was one of the most expensive element at that point of time, and that's why they created a monument out of it. Right? So this is how possibilities keep getting created. Like we saw some seconds where he was a winner, and now here the next person is lesser by 0.1 second, but still not a winner. Nowhere near winning, right? So we all create possibilities in our life. It happens even if we don't want to do. But what we have to do today is learn how things can be done better and how do we unleash our potential. So I'll take you to my childhood and quickly share some of my stories, because I believe that whatever I have lived through, I would be able to talk more about that, because somebody else's experiences, if I talk, then it would not be very authentic. So these pictures are all representative pictures because we did not have a camera at that point of time. I was born in Eastern UP and brought up in a small village, some picture of village. Lush green place, we were staying in a small place, so you would understand that there will be a lot of trees. There were many mountains, so in the evening we will go trekking. Now today in Mumbai or Pune we would just create time for doing that, but while we were doing it every single day. And I was third amongst three siblings, so a pampered child also. Very, very positive and very, very happy childhood. But on the flip side, as a village, there were no good schools. In fact, only one school, and that too was only till 8th. And there was only one hall this size. Whether you are in standard 1 or you are in standard 8, 8th तक ही था school, you will be studying together. So no personality development opportunities, very limited exposure, and it was a vernacular medium school. And I was anyways a very introverted child. So if anybody steps into home, I used to hide behind my mom, और मैं उनको तब तक नहीं छोड़ती थी until the person leaves the house. So this is how I was in terms of personality, and in terms of exposure I shared with you. But I was academically inclined, and my father was one of the biggest supporters, so I could crack engineering entrance test. This was Madhya Pradesh, and I went to second ranking institute of the state. Now for me, a big city, because I came from a village, this place was Indore, a big city, not as big as Mumbai or Pune, but still, for someone who's coming from a village, it was a very, very big city. There were students from across the globe. So English was the way of communication. For me, English started in 6th standard. So I was very weak in English, no confidence, like I said already. So I had a very difficult time when I was in college. This is how I would be. And I did not even have courage to say yes, madam, to the roll call of the teacher. I would just raise my hands because I was thinking everybody is judging me. How can I speak? I come from a village. I don't know English. I should be better quiet. So things went on. First semester itself, we had English paper, business communication, and I had no idea about that. On top of that, pressure of being in unfamiliar environment. So I was not able to cope up with this particular subject. And उस time पर tuitions नहीं होती थी जैसे अभी होती है हर subject के लिए, even in engineering, right? So I used to go to my friends and I would request them, जो मेरे classmates थे, that please help me. I'm not able to cope up with this particular subject, and they helped me once, twice, thrice. After that, they were fed up, and one day they told me, you are anyways going to fail, stop wasting our time. And that was the lowest point in my life, and I was like, ये नहीं होगा, ये नहीं हो सकता, possible बोलते हैं, but nothing can happen. I need to give up on that. From there on, all this has already happened. So just to tell that from anywhere we can reach anywhere, life is all about possibilities. Now I am going to share my mantra, and like I said, as HR we need to first create possibilities for ourselves and then help others unleash their potential, right? So the formula that I have been following in my life is self-leadership. Like as the famous saying goes, we are chief captain and CEO of our life. So we have to take charge. That is the first thing. Self-leadership is what we have to show. And for that, I have a formula which is SAY. Very simple formula, say SAY. And we are going to dive deep into it. So first is, can we have my Mentimeter please? There is a Mentimeter poll coming up. Please pick up your mobiles and we will be having it on the screen. As HR professional, do you consider yourself self-aware in how you manage people and influence organization culture? Say yes, no, or can't say. Self-awareness as HR professionals. Let's have some responses. We don't have the code. Okay, code is there. You have to go to Mentimeter, put that code and respond. Thank you for taking this effort. Yes is the first response. Again yes. 4 yes, 1 can't say. Okay, 8. So it's moving or tilting towards yes, I am aware. Thank you so much. You can keep on, and then we can have the whole result so that we become more aware how everything is thinking about, everybody is thinking about themselves. So just like, and now we are at 10, can't say, 19, 20, 10, okay, perfect. So just like we are doing this poll, Harvard University also did it, and they found that there are 95% people who say we are self-aware, but there are only 10 to 15%. Can we go back to presentation? Thank you so much, everyone. Only 15% who are actually self-aware. Now, we have met such people in our life, or maybe we have behaved like that. For example, the other day I got a call from a relative, and it was a holiday for her. I was in office. So I said, okay, I'm working, and she said, okay, no problem. मेरी छुट्टी थी, मैंने call कर लिया, and I'll just take 3 to 5 minutes. 37 minutes she was on call, and the only thing I could say was, हाँ, वो, ऐसा, and after that I was not able to say anything. 37 minutes she went on, right? We have seen such people, managers also. So there are 3 kinds of managers. The one who makes a mistake and admits it, very, very low, right? Then there are some who would not say anything directly, but it will show up from their eyes that yes, they are in guilt or they have realized it. And a very large portion where they will mess up everything and they will not even realize that there is something wrong. So only 15% people are actually aware, while 95% think we are aware. So I would also put myself not aware fully, like many of you said, can't say. Those who said yes need to introspect, and there are methods how we are going to do it. And why self-awareness? Because everything starts from self. Hum sudhre jag sara, right? This was a slogan very, very long ago when they were talking about education. So if we change, or we get to know at least, we become a better leader, we become a better HR professional. And that's why everything starts from self-awareness. So how do we increase self-awareness? First, we are all champion. Psychometric test. No psychometric test has a validity of more than 72%. What I have understood, Hogan is the best one, but still it is at around 72%. So there is a scope. Again, our mood. If we are happy, we will be signing up the questions in one way. If we are not happy, we will be putting something else, right? But there is another way to do it, wherein you can scan your fingers and you can get to know how your brain is wired. Anybody has taken that test? I have done it, and it is a very, very good report that you get to know, because it is not fluctuated by your mood. Anyone has taken that test? If not, you should. I would encourage you to go for it. You are done? We'll talk about it. Second is self-reflection. So here are some questions from HBR research which help us understand ourselves better and reflect. Now when we reflect, the most important thing is we don't have to go to why. While we say why is the most important thing, why the purpose, but when it comes to reflection, don't go to why, because why leads to drama. Anything happens, why did it happen with me? मेरे साथ ही क्यों होता है ये सब? हम करते हैं हमेशा, because we reflect in terms of why. Now onwards we have to reflect in terms of what. What next? What do I change? What do I do better that things improve? So one thing that is very, very important, and we are doing it wrong, I have done it also, sometimes it still happens. It's a journey, it's a continuous learning journey, but we need to remember that why is drama, so we have to go for what next, what to change. And the third is feedback. Of course, nothing better than feedback, but we have to evaluate feedback. And I'll share my story. When I started this journey of taking feedback, I took it from 32 people first time, and it included my husband, my daughter also. And my daughter rated me 3 for 5-6 parameters from 1 to 10, 1 being lowest, 10 being highest. And I was like, ऐसी हूँ मैं, it will happen if you start the journey, and I don't know how many of you involve family. Please do that, because they also see us in a different avatar. At workplaces we are a different person, but at home we are more authentic, right? We do say bring your authentic self to work, but 100% वो हुआ नहीं है. So please involve your family and see the magic. Since then I have been doing it regularly, and it does help. Whether I am able to take action or not, at least awareness increases. And once you know, you tend to change, or you tend to improve. How many times you can tell yourself the same lie, right? That it is not right and I am good. It doesn't happen. We generally tend to move towards improvement if we start knowing things. So feedback is the next thing that is important for self-awareness. So first, SAY. S is self-awareness. How do we do it? Psychometric test, self-reflection, wherein we have to leave why and we have to move towards what, and finally feedback. Then we come to A, accept new mental models. And when we accept new mental models, we open up ourselves to various other possibilities. Say for example, when I went to Northeast, after my marriage I moved to Guwahati, and this was early 2000s. And when I went there, the first day when I woke up, I am generally an early riser. So when I woke up, I was like, 9 कैसे बज गए मुझे आज उठने के लिए? And when I looked at the watch, it was 6:30 in the morning. Because sun rises in east and I had always stayed in west. So for me it took some time to understand that this is how things happen here. 6:30 p.m. we were in market and market was closed. That gave me a new mental model, ऐसा भी होता है. So what are mental models? The narratives that we have been telling us, the stories through which we look at the world. I was looking at the world, day starts at 9 a.m., 10 a.m. and it ends at 9 p.m. But there was a different world waiting for me, and that is what accepting new mental models is. And how do we do it? Very simple thing which we have been, it's a cliche, but how do we actually do it? How do we go beyond our comfort zone? A poll is coming up here. Okay, so now the question is, what is the biggest factor that holds you back from driving new initiative or changes in your HR role? What stops you? Comfort zone. COVID ने हमें shake कर दिया था, but otherwise, for a very, very long time, many of us would be in comfort zone. So what is the reason that is stopping you? Fear of failure, uncertainty about the results, lack of motivation, or you don't get in buy-in from leadership. You are happy with whatever is happening, and there are limited resources to support, and that's where HR1 came into picture. Administrators sab hata do, you have time to do a lot of other things. Lack of motivation or buy-in tops the list as of now, and limited resources also very close. Please keep them coming. This is everybody's problem. Let everyone know what is happening. Yeah, so mostly we are seeing it's either limited resources or lack of motivation or buy-in from leadership. Okay, so while the poll is on, one story I would like to very quickly hear from one of you who has gone beyond comfort zone and done something. In your HR role, in your personal life, anything very quickly anyone would like to share? Yeah, please.
Okay, am I audible? So when I was working in for sponsorship, as whole event was under me, so there were boys, नहीं इससे नहीं होगा, हम क्या करेंगे, जो भी है वो हम सब manage करेंगे. They tried to do many much more things, conducted meetings in against of me, but I overcome that. So I have also been a part of the sponsorship department, and with this circumstances, I have crossed all the obstacles and I have brought 1.5 lakh sponsor as a Ekatvam Academy. So that was the biggest thing, and that event was successful and I was very happy. I was the event coordinator there, and for the first time many new things I have conducted. So initially जो कुछ भी हुआ मेरे साथ, I took it in a very positive way and I overcome it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, even getting up and talking about what you have done is also going beyond your comfort zone. It's easy to sit down and listen. It's important to listen also, but there are other examples. So great work, and in such a early career you have done it. I mean, in the college. So I'm sure you are from HR. So bright days for HR. Can we go back to presentation? Yeah, so one is moving out of comfort zone. I'm not saying anything here. She narrated the story and we all know what it is. Unlearning. Very, very important, and we keep listening, learn, unlearn, relearn. But what is this unlearning? Any examples, anyone? Okay, I'll bring up one and then you can add it. Very simple example, when you move from manual car to automatic car, you have to forget a lot of things and bring in new things, right? Anybody experience that? Many of you would have. Please raise your hand. Yeah. So likewise, any other examples where you saw that you had to unlearn something and learn something new? ऐसे नहीं हो सकता किसी ने HR में unlearning नहीं की हो. Yeah, please.
HR should always unlearn, according to me, every year.
Yeah.
Because a lot of modifications are happening, the face of HR is changing. So things are unlearned, like from my era, like from Excel to HRMS. That's a big unlearning, where now I'm
Yes.
forgetting Excel and more into HRMS. So that way, and even the practices, what we used to follow and now what the generation is changing, like from Gen X to Millennium, Millennium to Gen Z, and Gen Z to Alpha. So the way of handling those people, handling Gen X and handling Gen Zs is different.
Absolutely.
So that way of unlearning, that we cannot follow the same traditional method of HR, and what the rightly said by HR1, like the traditional method was just documentation and all those things of HR. But now we have to change the face of HR to be more of well-being, employee growth, and towards the employee success. So whatever we see in the news of, suicides happening due to a lot of work pressure,
Yeah.
there the role of HR comes in, which I feel HR should take the, step ahead, that people should come to HR and talk and, relieve their grievances, which will prevent them from taking such long and big steps for the life. So that type of unlearning should be that HR is not just a person who is only smiling and doing the documentation, but a hand put ahead to all the team to take them ahead and grow towards the next steps, or unlearn a lot of old traditional things and go hand in hand. As a leader, you should go ahead.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Yeah.
So hi, this is Seema. Many years ago, I was 27. So that's 22 years ago. I was an entrepreneur for a very long time. And I had worked with a client, Lion Bridge at the time. And when I wanted to come back to the workspace, it was my old client who gave me an opportunity to come back and become a corporate employee. And I worked with Deepak, who was my boss at the time. So from an entrepreneur for 8 years, I suddenly became an employee. And I found my first few months very difficult to digest, because now I have to ask other people for opinions, thoughts, why are things not moving? Why can't I just go get things done? And of course, the money was also a big problem, because when you're on your own, at least I did, I made a lot of money, then the salary wasn't even coming close, so I was not motivated, I guess. And then one day Deepak sat me down and he said, "Madam, if you really want to do well in life, you have to learn how to eat humble pie." I think he would have forgotten what he told me, but I think for me that moment of hearing humble pie in that combination came and hit me hard. And I think I have remembered humble pie many times in my life after that. Because every time that I have to go through change, I become a very humble person. Because I have to come down to ground zero. I have to put away my ego. I have to listen better. I have to accept someone possibly knows something better than me. It could be a young person who knows something better than me. And I can tell you, data analysts and everyone else that happened to come right in front of my eyes, you know, I'm in my late 40s and now you have these guys in their 20s and they come and tell you how it's supposed to be done. I'm eating humble pie at that time, you know, head of HR, but keep your mouth shut and listen to this guy. He's only 25 years old, but he's a master of data. So you have no idea how many times I have remembered humble pie, Deepak.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Seema, for sharing. And as we were talking, you have some other stories about HR, also the other side of HR. So if you want to listen to those stories, please contact her. So unlearning is very, very important. We have to do it at every point of time in our life. If we don't do, even if things are changing, because change is the name of the game. If we have the key of adaptability, we win. Otherwise, and the third thing is networking. I strongly believe no one wins alone. It's all about people who help us, who uplift us, and we have to do it also for others. So networking is very, very important, and not networking where you give your card and you say that ये मेरा product है या ये मुझे requirement है and you run away. No. Networking where you invest. But what we generally do, and I have also done this mistake, we mostly go for again our comfort zone. We network with people only in HR, training हो गया, coaches हो गए, वहीं पे रहते हैं, and we don't go beyond. So we have to go for networking in heterogeneous set of people. HR gang, many of you would know many of them. But what is different here is gender diversity. So as women, and women especially for them, I have seen it. I have written a book on networking as well, and I have connected with many women. They find it extremely difficult. There are other responsibilities to shoulder. But anyways, as a gender also, there is data available which says that women are not very good at networking. So remember, this is heterogeneous networking. This one, all women, and I am calling it, nahi, homogeneous nahi hai ye. Why? Because there is one who is a financial advisor, another woman is a astrologer, there is a pharma professional, there is a sales professional, there is a techie. So it is all heterogeneous networking. And here it is with academicians and also with other industry professionals. I mean, not from HR, from other, and not my industry, not banking, from other industries. So we should always go for heterogeneous networking. The advantage is we get various point of view. Otherwise, if we only talk amongst HR professionals, we would always be thinking about how HR thinks. We will definitely get how one HR is thinking differently from another, but we will not get a view of, say, business, say marketing, say different other functions. And I realized it firsthand when I took an additional role in marketing. The world looked totally different from the angle of marketing rather than from angle of HR. So please do that. This is the third thing when it comes to accepting new mental models. So again, SAY, say self-awareness. We discussed 3 methods to improve self-awareness. Second is accepting new mental models. What we have to do is connect with people, but connect with heterogeneous set of people, do networking in the right form, and we have to keep unlearning, and we have to keep going beyond our comfort zone. And finally, why? Yet. Yet is very, very powerful, right? There is an institute in US which awards you not yet if you fail a semester. Now, what's the difference between not yet and fail? Not yet and fail, any difference? Yes. You were saying something? Yes. So you are not there yet. Fail is gone. Yes, rightly said. You have not taken that action as yet, but you can do it. And that's what I continuously told myself when I was learning to improve my English communication. I was rejected by a BPO with a remark, English nahi aati hai. When I went for my PGDBM application and there's GD and PI, I requested them that I want to speak in English because English मैं नहीं बोल सकती हूँ. So continuously I speak in Hindi, sorry, and they accepted it because they knew that this would be helpful, kind people. So continuously we have to tell ourselves that we are not there yet, but we would be able to make it. Growth mindset and fixed mindset, we all know. Learning opportunities, mistakes are opportunities, like Pulkit shared some examples of it. And yes, it is true, nobody remembers the second ranker. Hardly any one of us remembered the name of the person. I don't know if anyone was able to tell it correctly. But winners we all know, but we have to remember until we make mistakes, until we face failures, we are not going to grow. So we always have to have growth mindset, not the fixed mindset where I will fail, I will not attempt this. I have to attempt it and I have to, like he shared, that there will be opportunities, there will be possibilities. All we have to do is keep trying. Can we have the last thing? And this is a word cloud. So please put in some responses here, whatever you think is the right thing for it. There are no right or wrong answers, whatever you feel is right. One word that comes to your mind when you think of a growth mindset in HR. What is growth mindset in HR? Which word will define that? Please be quick because it's telling me time is up. Positive attitude, adaptability, AI, radical acceptance, talking data, challenging status quo, yes. And that's the answer of the challenge that we face. Mostly we don't get buy-in from leaders because we are not able to produce data. We are not able to challenge status quo. Employee satisfaction, kind yet leader. So empathy, somebody thinks. Yes, I think all of it, empathy is already there. All of it is very, very important when it comes to growth mindset. We cannot be ruthless. We have to have empathy and we also have to have business growth. So it's a balancing act which we all do every single day. Thank you so much, everyone. No, presentation is not over. Here is an example of how do we move to growth mindset. And two examples here. Okay, tell me what makes us perfect. There's an old saying, practice, yes. But now we know it's not practice, it's deliberate practice. If we practice incorrectly, we would not become, perfection kuch nahi hota, but we will not become best at that particular thing. We will rather go down. So when we do perfect practice, we go for the best outcome. And how it is done, there are two examples, we all know her. What she does is, after every performance, she goes to her room, she checks each and every part of the presentation or of the play or whatever performance, and she tells her crew what changes are required next time. Again, she is not reflecting on why, no drama, why this happened. She's telling what next, what more to be done next time. That is one example. Second example is Demosthenes. He is a Greek philosopher, lawyer, and he had multiple challenges. Those days there were no mics, so his voice would not reach the courtroom. What he would do is he will go to seashore and project his voice from there. And that's how his voice become loud enough to reach everyone, because as an advocate, your voice is very, very important. He had a lisp issue, so every time he would speak involuntarily, the shoulder would come up. So he would hang a sword, and every time shoulder is coming up, there will be a hit. He'll go underground and he will practice there. So I'm not suggesting this kind of deliberate practice, but just to give an example, what level can it reach when it comes to deliberate practice. So this is how we have to do for the art that we want to ace. We all have examples. I have my friend here in the room, and who is she? No one knows? Paralympics recently, 2 gold medals. Yes. And here, so she did it at the age of 22. 2 gold medals she already has at the age of 22. For him, the wait was very, very long, and we will see his story and see how we can turn around things and we can unleash potential for ourselves and others in the organization.
Back in 1938, there was a man in Hungarian army named Karoli, who was the best pistol shooter of his country. He won most of the major national and international championships. He seemed closest to winning the 1940 Tokyo Olympic Games gold medal, and that was his only dream. The focus of his life was to win the Olympic gold medal for his country, for which he had practiced for years. He wanted to make his hand the best shooting hand in the world. But all the dreams turned to dust one day. In 1938, in an army training camp, in an unfortunate accident, one hand grenade exploded in Karoli's right hand, his shooting hand. That grenade ended up not only his shooting hand, but his Olympic dream as well, the only goal of his life. He had 2 ways. He would have chosen to knee down to life and cry for the rest of his life, or he would have focused back on his dream with a small light of hope. After 1 year in 1939, Karoli went to a national shooting championship in his country. His colleagues were delighted to see him and complimented him on his courage to come up at the championship to cheer for them. But Karoli answered that he's not there to cheer them, but to compete them. He was there to compete them with his only hand. He had practiced for a complete 1 year with his left hand to become the best shooter again, and he won that championship. He focused on what he had, not on what he has lost. But he didn't stop there. His focus was to become the best shooting hand of the world and to win the Olympic gold medal. So he started training again with his only hand, and he concentrated his whole energy on 1940 Olympics. But 1940 Olympics got cancelled due to World War II. But he didn't lose hope, so he concentrated and trained again for 1944 Olympics. But unfortunately, they got cancelled too due to World War again. It was hard, very hard to see his Olympic dream fade away like a dust. But he kept practicing and prepared again for 1948 Olympics. He was 28 years of age in 1938, and in 1948 he was 38 years old. It was hard to compete with the new players, with the new energies, but that didn't stop him. He went there. Best shooters from all over the world were competing with their best hand. He was the only one competing with his only hand, and the man with the only hand won. But he didn't stop there. In 1952 Olympics, he won the gold again and changed the history of Olympics. If you are determined, nothing can stop you to reach your goal.
Thank you. Do we have time for Q&A? I don't know.